Welcome everyone. I'm now calling this meeting to order. Please stand with us. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Gallagher. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, and that'll be led by Alderman Payne.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we ask you to be here tonight with our gathering, Lord. I pray that you would lead our minds in the right direction, Lord, and that we would always represent you in the way that we should. Lord, we thank you for keeping your hand over Southaven and blessing our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda this evening is approval of minutes for the August 7, 2018 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 7th, 2018 with any additions, deletions, or corrections.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Payne?
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda, I'd like to welcome Police Chief Steve Pearl. We're going to recognize a special achievement of Sergeant Tyler Price.
Mayor, Board, just like to take for just a second just to recognize Sergeant Tyler Price. Last week, he and I were, or I was actually privileged to be able to go with him. He and I were flown up to Clarksburg, West Virginia, paid for, all the expenses were paid for by the FBI. They flew us up to the FBI's CJIS, which is the Criminal Justice Information Center there in Clarksburg. Tyler was nominated and received an award for utilizing the index system in one of our cases. Last year, we had a Sprint store that we had some individuals go into, and as some of the accomplices drew the attention of the clerks away, other two went in and opened up the registers and snatched the money and run out. They called us. Of course, unfortunately, they got away the first time. Well, they come back the second time and did the same thing, but the company was a little more prepared for it, called us. We got there, we were able to catch two of them. Two of them got away. Well, Tyler, even though it was a misdemeanor, Tyler was assigned the case, and instead of just kind of like going along with just the two that we had in custody and charging them, he investigated further, utilized the index system, which is part of the NCIC system, but it's off on a separate branch, and you have to have the credentials and be a member to get into it. What he found out by utilizing that system was that these four were actually responsible for a crime ring that spanned from New York, North Carolina, and Georgia. He was able to identify those two that were unidentifiable to us at the time, and also was able to identify the fact that they were responsible for some armed robberies in Tennessee and Alabama. So because of his work, that little crime ring was identified. We do still have outstanding warrants on the two that he identified. But across the country each year, Index looks and picks out some of the top cases that were utilized by using their system. And out of 38 that they selected this year, Tyler got the top prize or top award for utilizing that system. And again, flew us up there, all expense paid, give us him a nice plaque, as well as one for the department to display as well. And they're getting those made up and shipped to us. Since we were on an airplane, they didn't want them to get damaged. So they're actually shipping them to us, so we're waiting for them to arrive now. But it was my distinct honor to be able to go with him and be able to receive that award because of his work, especially on a case that very easily could have just sat on somebody's desk and just said, you know, we'll charge the two that we have in hand and just leave it at that. But wasn't satisfied with that and took it further.
Sergeant Price, I just want to tell you, congratulations and thank you. That's outstanding. Hey, that's the kind of stuff right there that, that extra effort is what makes the Southaven Police Department stand out above other departments, and your efforts are incredible. We appreciate that. We're very proud of that award. We're proud of the work that you do, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Member.
Okay, next on the agenda, and Chief Hurdle will introduce our new officers.
I'd like to introduce to you Marion Bell. I had planned on Nia Chafin being here, but I found out she is actually on military drill at this time, so she couldn't make it. Marion is one of 3 that we just sent off to the training academy down in Moorhead. Graduated 2 weeks ago, and Marion, while he was there, received the 5 under 50 award, which is running 5 miles under 50 minutes, and also won the Road Warrior 10-week fitness challenge award while he was there. And Nia, she received the Top Cop Award for the academy class. She received the top award in PT. She also received the 5 under 50 award as well. But I just want to take a minute to introduce you to Marion Bell. And again, I apologize, Nia is on military, and I wasn't aware of that at the time. But just to let you know that what kind of officers that were fortunate to be to attract here and get here. Marion? Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is our budget hearing. At this time, we'll need to close this meeting. We'll need a motion to close the public meeting, then reopen the budget hearing. So is there a motion to close the public meeting?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The public meeting is now closed. And now is there a motion to open the budget hearing?
So moved. Second.
A motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The budget hearing is now open. Mr. Chris Wilson, if you'll just give us an overview of, we had a budget workshop. A few weeks have gone by, have a proposed budget. If you'll just give us a quick summary, and then we'll open up the floor for the board and anyone else in the audience that wants to speak.
So to recap, no tax increase, no fines, fees, no increases in utility funds, sanitation, water, all remaining the same. The new positions coming online that were in the approved budget that we talked about at the board meeting were the 5 new laborers in parks, the new food and beverage manager to accommodate the increase in parks, tennis, and as we expand parks. 1 new animal control officer, 1 new inspector in planning department, a $2 million budget for overlay, which is up from $1.5 million, and 1 new facility maintenance position in public works. The one difference that the draft you got in front of you compared to the one a few weeks ago is that the Springfest budget was up to $240,000 and the expense was up to $240,000 in tourism. But no change to general fund, no change to utility, no changes to debt, and no changes to sanitation.
Chris, there was some talk about a new HR director. Is that?
That is in here. It's right now, and all those positions have yet to be posted. So we haven't started collecting any information on them yet until actually the board adopts the budget or confirms those positions. So yes, I'm sorry, that position is in here for 19 as well.
Just to clarify, that Springfest, Christie and I have worked on that to do it a little differently in the past. We were, in the line item in the budget was not reflective of current numbers. There have been some changes in recent years. We're receiving more money from the carnival and some other things that we just wanted to have a realistic budget. So we went back and based that. Christie's done a great job in the last year in estimating actual expenses on being real on how much it costs to operate Springfest, and that's where it costs $240,000 to do it. So our goal, as y'all know, is to at least break even, and weather plays a big part in that. The years that weather is not horrendous, we have broken even. There have been years that we've actually had a surplus in that line. So the goal is still to break even. Just a little heads up, a lot of discussion ahead of that, but we do plan to make a few adjustments with the entertainment to try to make that more productive than it has been the last few years. A lot of things have changed. When Springfest first began and the concerts were there, that was before we had, the summer series and a lot of the other concerts there. So there was more, people were more excited about coming to see some of the acts there. So it's a little different than it used to be, but we're determined that it's going to be good. Christie's determined, and so am I. And so we're going to make a few changes. But anyway, the long way to take the goal is to break even, but that 240 is a real number.
Chris, with pending changes in the health insurance, will we revise the budget once we get final
We're
numbers?
gonna have to. Right. And again, with health insurance, the number that's in there offers a modest increase in premiums. The board will have to go back and revisit that once we get into, again, our renewals are January. Budget is October 1st, so there's still some window that we're gonna continue to negotiate, continue to work on those policies and those plans as we move forward. So we will be coming back before you with some kind of modification in FY19, depending on where we are. We've got one company that won't quote us a rate until September 15th. We've run into that before when we're, try to get a number prior to 10/1. We need to go further on the year to get some of these claims behind us, to give us more negotiation power, if there is any. If you've been reading anything, all rates in Mississippi nationwide are skyrocketing right now, premium rates, and our plan is looking to be no different. So yes, to your point, we are going to have to come back and have some other discussions about where we go with health insurance for January.
We're gonna have to account for 9 months of that increase.
Yes.
Okay.
We're under our current rates through December 31st.
And we'll know more in the next, actually within days, we'll know more, but the upcoming weeks we'll know a whole lot more about what the real situation is going to be. But I do want to go on the record again to say that any organization, including the City of Southaven, that is the most challenging, that's the most volatile thing. It's one of the most challenging things that we can do to maintain the benefits with the volatility of the health insurance market in our country right now. So it's every year's challenge, and this year seems to be maybe the most. So we'll be updating all of you within the next next few days about that situation.
The budget number in there carries our current plan through the end of the calendar year. And so we know we're set there, but we are going to have to come back and revisit it.
Any other discussion among the board?
You want a motion to adopt?
No.
And we got to open up also, and then we'll do that. I appreciate that. Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions or comments about the proposed budget? Every line item is open for discussion, so any questions that you have, we are prepared to
The
answer.
presentation and the line items are on our website, southaven.com. So that's all obviously publicly available as well.
Okay. Seeing or hearing no one that's wanting to speak, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So make that motion.
Have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Brooks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Budget hearing is now closed. Now we will go on with the public meeting.
Do we need to reopen?
Is that necessary? Okay, we can be formal.
Sorry.
Okay.
I move we reopen.
Hang on, I missed student council.
I move we reopen the public meeting.
Okay. I was not. We have a motion to open by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Brooks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The public meeting is now open, and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a resolution for unmarked vehicles. Mr. Nick Manley.
Yeah, this is the, in accordance with state law, resolution for the unmarked vehicles for the police department that are used for investigative purposes. I have to have a resolution on our minutes that these certain vehicles that are attached to Exhibit A will be unmarked. I think it's just one vehicle maybe, or two. And those will be sent by the clerk's office to the auditor's office. So tonight, just authorization for that resolution.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Who.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion carries. Next on the agenda is an extension of the civil link agreement.
This is just an amendment to the civil link agreement on exact same terms as it was amended on last year. It extends it until September 30th, 2019, so an additional year under their master agreement, Amendment 1. So tonight, I need authorization for the mayor to sign the extension with civil link that will have the master agreement and Amendment number 2. It'll mirror those for Amendment number 3 as the extension tonight.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Who.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is an agreement with Tyler Technologies for Southaven Municipal Court.
This agreement is actually for Chris Shelton's signature. It's an agreement with Tyler Technologies that will allow for certain court records or the court records to be online, to get easier or more accessible to our police department and other members that the court chooses to allow to see or to utilize the online records. And tonight, just need authorization for Chris Shelton to sign the agreement. The cost of the service is, I think it's I got it right here, pull it up. $3,500. So it's something I think that Thomas and the court department are looking forward to. So tonight, authorization for Chris Shelton to sign this agreement and with Tyler for the web services, internet-based products subscription agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion?
There's a couple of comments we had in the amendment ad. There was a couple of comments in the contract that they amended for us with their attorney. So the contract, they amended some issues that we had as well. So it's,
You're good with it?
I'm good with it, yeah. Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Who.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is an agreement with Tyler Technologies for Munis.
This agreement is also for Chris Shelton's signature. It's an amendment to the agreement with Tyler Technologies with Munis System, which is our operating software and storage that we use throughout the entire city. The software is ancillary to the service, so while we're getting software, the software is useless without the service, and authorization to pay in advance as well, because we'll know be getting the goods in advance based on the reputation of the company. So reflect that in our minutes, but tonight need authorization to allow Chris Shelton to sign the amendment with Munis, or with Tyler for the Munis program throughout the city, noting that the software is ancillary to the service, and that based on Tyler's reputation and their work with the city, we can pay in advance pursuant to the contract.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Who.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for our JAG grant.
This is the annual JAG grant that we receive every year. And this year, Southaven's trying to be in the lead again. So tonight, need authorization for the mayor to sign the MOU or interlocal agreement with the DeSoto County and the City of Olive Branch to receive the JAG funds and authorize, the resolution may authorize those to be sent to the Attorney General's office for the interlocal, for approval by the Attorney General's office and to proceed forward with the JAG grant and program.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is a special event permit for Memphis Food Truck and Craft Beer Festival to be held at Tanger Outlets.
Yeah, this is just a special event permit for the event on September 1st. I think it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it's for the food truck festival at the Tanger Outlet Mall. And it's been reviewed by the clerk's office and recommended tonight for approval.
Make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Fire Service Extension Phase 2 for the recommendation to award the bid.
Mayor, Board. This is phase 2 of the fire service extensions multi-year project. I think we started out with 4 phases, and the first year's phase kind of took some of what the mayor had on list 4. This basically covers the Malone Road area, some of those roads that come off of to the west of Malone Road to provide adequate fire service. The bids came in, the low and best bid, and we recommend an award to Buzz Plaxico Dozer Services in the amount of $667,864.77. Asking for the board's approval to award and authorize the mayor to execute the contract documents when we receive it.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Again, I know the board's familiar with this, but for those in the audience or that may be watching, this again is part of a larger plan for the city's annexed areas to replace the water lines with sufficient water lines to put in standard fire hydrants so the annexed areas have the same fire protection as everyone else in the city. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you, Dan. Next on the agenda is a resolution to claim private property.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt the resolution granting authority to claim private property as presented on this date.
Second.
Have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion among the board? Hearing none, does anyone in the audience that has a financial interest in any of the properties want to speak? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on our agenda is our planning agenda. Ms. Whitney Cook.
Yes, sir. We have 2 quick items. The first one is a conditional use permit to allow a full-service spa at 453 State Line Road. This is going to be in the Kroger complex right down here at Hamilton and Kroger. Conditional use permit for a full-service spa requires that they have 3 amenities, which they have met those amenity requirements. They all have to be licensed technicians to the state of Mississippi boards. All their documentation has been submitted. The conditional use requirement also states that they have to have a 1 mile radius distance from an existing one. We have checked that through a window survey and they're compliant with that. We're recommending a 1-year conditional use permit with a 4-year extension to be renewed annually.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve item number 1 on the planning agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Kelly, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion on item 1? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Kane.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries on 1.
The second application is similar to the first. It's a conditional use permit for a hair braiding facility. This one's going to be at 186 State Line Road. It's going to be in a retail center on the north side of State Line Road, just west of Airways Boulevard. Has the same half-mile radius rules. It has the same requirements for state certification and board certifications. They have submitted all the required documents, and they did meet the 1 mile radius requirement. So we're recommending a 1-year conditional use permit with a 4-year extension.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve item number 2 on the planning agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Kelly, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries on 2. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is mayor's report. Got a couple of issues to update everyone about. Actually need board action on one issue. Recently, actually this week, Chris Wilson brought to my attention the fact that GASB, which is the Government Accounting Standards Board, that's a national organization that reviews the accounting procedures and auditing practices of governmental agencies, has reviewed an issue that will affect our retiree health insurance benefit. Y'all may recall that last year we felt like it was an excellent thing to do to award our employees with the option at retirement of staying on the city's group health insurance plan until they qualify for Medicare or have other options. Obviously, this is a tremendous benefit because when you get off of a group plan, if you are in a situation where you have to acquire personal health insurance, the cost is tremendously more. Plus, you can face some issues of insurability with pre-existing conditions and that kind of thing. So it's a tremendous thing. We thought it was a great thing, so we implemented that. We do have a few people that are on that program now. The problem is that now this accounting board has ruled that we now have to consider this a liability for the city. It's actually no liability because the retiree pays the premium, so the city takes no liability whatsoever. Our CPA, including and Chris, has explained this to them and asked them to review this again. We have no liability, but they have continued to come back and say that it will be treated as a liability, so it will be will affect our assets and liabilities, obviously our financial situation. The other thing that's a negative is they're requiring that we hire actuaries every year to come in and again measure a liability that doesn't exist. So it's kind of crazy, but we told them that, and at this point, that's what it looks like. We don't know the exact dollar amount for that, but basically we could possibly be paying upwards of $10,000 a year to get someone to tell us how much of a liability that we have that's not a liability. It's really crazy. And then the other thing is, again, it's a negative on our books. It hurts our financial situation. So with all that being said, and to open up discussion, it's Chris Wilson's recommendation and also my recommendation that we suspend this at this time until we know more details about that. The reason we're recommending to suspend this is we certainly don't want someone to base their retirement plans around having this, and then it be sprung on them that they're not going to have. I mean, as y'all know, your health insurance is a huge decision, when you approach retirement age. So we don't want someone to rely on that benefit and then us not be able to provide it. So that's our recommendation, that we make a motion and we vote tonight to suspend it. But at this point, we'll open discussion for that.
What about the people, the employees that are former employees that are currently on it?
It's my understanding, and Chris can tell you more details, it's my understanding that they will have COBRA options. But again, eventually would lose the retiree health insurance benefit.
So suspending it just means no new retirees would get on the plan. Those 4 that we have on it would continue to stay on it until the board made a decision one way or another to continue it, spend the money for the actuary, have that liability on our books and move forward as is, or in the program.
The one's actually rolling off.
There's 5 on there now. 1 is going to have a birthday and will roll off next month. So we'll have 4 current retirees on the plan.
What's the appeal process like here, or is there one as far as
There is no
these
appeal.
guys? What they say goes, no matter what.
That's right.
You don't, yeah, I mean, it's real simple. You follow the GASB rules as far as your accounting, or you don't, or you have a qualified opinion in your audit, which it would devastate your financial standing from a standpoint of your audit would have one big red flag on it. And
Everything that we worked
that's
for
not
the
what,
last
yeah, I
5,
mean,
6
that's,
years is gone.
you know, it's again, you know, so the big thing is retirement benefits and pensions are killing governments and killing government finances. You hear about states and cities in the worst financial trouble, it's because of their unfunded pensions. This happened a few years ago. If y'all recall, 2015, we had to start booking PERS as unfunded liability. We lost, I'll give you an exact number. We went, our net position went from 85 million to 50 million because of a GASB standard. Same thing's gonna happen with this. Not to that extent, we think, because we had to begin to book, all governments began to have to record and book the state pension liability.
Again, it's basically requiring us to show a liability that we truly don't have.
Which, so when we issue debt or go out for re-rating, they will look at that, and now we're either gonna have a unqualified audit, just assume the liability and move on, or do away with the program.
Is it booked as an unfunded liability or a funded?
Yes.
It's unfunded, which is worse.
So even though there's only 4, the numbers and the actuary will come in and look at all potential retirees. So we have 398, give or take 1 or 2 employees on health insurance as is. They will come in and have to start building the numbers on any potential retiree going forward. So we could hire someone tonight, PERS, they would become PERS eligible on ours after 30 years or 60. They'll have to do that for all potential employees.
So we're looking at potentially $1 million of unfunded liability.
We don't know the number yet. I mean, that's what, you know, we've got to have, and we've reached out, we've got 4 actuaries I'm running down, trying to get a number on their estimate of what it would cost for professional service to do it.
What's the time frame in order to make the
Yeah,
decision?
we're on the clock now. This came down, the rulings really started to come down early August, so here we are. I've had some CPAs tell me no one knows the impact of this, but again, it's to the mayor's point, there's no appeal, this is the accounting standard that we have to live by.
Or get a qualified audit.
Right.
Which would be saying that, you know, you guys didn't account for this liability, and I can tell you right now, if you try to issue debt or go get re-rated on that, it's the first thing that will come up. So, I
So
mean,
this
that's
motion is just to suspend any future.
to not
rulings.
accept any
Correct.
new until we unravel this onion a little bit more, yes.
And I may have assumed Alderman Payne's question, I thought you were asking me ultimately what would happen. But Chris was just telling you that it won't, in the short term, it won't affect the current ones that are on it. But ultimately, if nothing changes, then we have to discontinue the plan. That's what I was referring to, that ultimately that the benefits would go away.
Well, that would have been my next question.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make that decision down the road.
Right.
They will, if the city decides to go away from offering this post-employment benefit, which again, if you read, you know, watch the news, I mean, read about these things, it's Illinois, I mean, you've got governments that are upside down because of their post-employment benefits going unfunded. So that's why GASB sits and meets and says, hey, we need everyone to start accounting for these things so bond investors and general public can get a better idea of what true number the net assets are of a school district, water district, city. Those, if the city decides to go that route, those employees, those 4 that are currently on it would become COBRA eligible to remain on the city's plan at their existing rates for a minimum of 18 months. So there's not gonna be a notice going out saying, hey, next month you're off insurance.
Okay.
There is COBRA benefit for those individuals, because that's all this plan really was, it was COBRA anyway.
there no way to keep them on until it times out?
No, we have to account for this in our FY18 audit. Close of business 9:30, we're gonna have to either account for this and have the actuary on deck, or the program will cease.
We're gonna have to, tonight is just to suspend any conditions, but we're probably gonna have to we're gonna have to come up with a
To the
motion.
mayor, we don't want anyone retiring tomorrow thinking that they're based their
This is
entire
an option.
retirement on a potential of this program going away.
They'll still have 18 months even if somebody was retiring tomorrow.
Those that are on it now.
Right. We got people retired, 15 years left.
We don't have anyone that's got that long left, but yes, there's not anyone that's getting ready to be 65 unless, the one.
So all branches in the same boat we're in.
They are in the same boat, however, talking to them, they don't share the same concerns because they don't submit their financials to the same regulatory and GFOA that we do for the recognition and to be held by that standard. So I don't know what they're gonna do. Their people initially told me it didn't apply to them because the same thing, that the city doesn't pay the premium. I've got GASB rulings here that it doesn't matter. The retirees 100% responsible for their premium, it still applies. Unless you're less than 100 people in employment, which we're not.
Well, again, the sad thing is we were trying to do a good thing. Last year we were trying to reward our loyal employees for their service to the city. We tried to do a good thing. We did not know about any of this at that time, or if we knew there was any question of this at that time, then obviously we wouldn't have done it.
And this applies to medical, long-term, short-term, vision, dental, anything and everything you may offer, which we don't do any of that for retirees, just health. But this applies across the board. They're getting the numbers on anything. And as we went through, the difference between us having to do this now for this, as opposed to what the state did for PERS, it's not our retirement. So the state went out, had to get the actuary, come up with that formula that each audit year we plug our number into, and they give us our number for the unfunded liability, which is about $55 million hit to your bottom line, through no fault of your own.
Is there any other discussion about this beautiful topic? Is there a motion to suspend?
I'll make that motion. Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Flores, got a second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yeah.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes?
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion
I'll
carries.
get the latest updates to you daily on where we are on it, but that's,
We don't see Gatsby reverse it.
oh no.
I don't think so.
How many accountants have you argued with lately? They're pretty set in their,
There's 6 here who will tell you they've argued with one. So.
they're pretty set in their ways.
All right, thank you, Chris. Okay, the only other item I want to update you about is positive. So after that, we got something positive. I-269, I was in a meeting recently with MDOT Commissioner Taggart, and it was updated that I-269, the final leg of that will be open in October. So you may know that it was done in 3 phases to connect Interstate 55 and Interstate 40 on the Tennessee side, and it started on the Tennessee side. That was done. Then last year, the middle leg was opened up between the Tennessee line and Highway 305 and Olive Branch. And so in October, they'll have the final leg done, which will be between Highway 305 and Interstate 55, which will connect that. In MDOT's words, they believe that the I-269 project is the most significant, or will have the most significant change with transportation improvement since Interstate 55 was opened in the 1960s. They believe that will make that big of an impact. So you can think about it on your own. I mean, you're going to bypass a lot of the southbound or the northbound traffic coming from the south on Interstate 55, going to Nashville or going to the East Coast. Will now miss Southaven. I mean, you'll help us with Church Road and I-55 a little bit, because a lot of that truck traffic will be hitting 269 to go to 40. So that will dodge Southaven. So it'll be a big benefit for us. The economic impact will be tremendous. You can get ready for all the north-south corridors that connect with 269. Obviously, Getwell will be a big deal in Southaven, but then you have the ones in the Lewisburg area, that there will be tremendous growth opportunities there. I told you before that we believe that the McInville exit in Hernando off of 269 will have a long-term effect on Southaven. There's a potential connection of Sweeney Road and McInville, which would allow Southaven residents to access 269, that way, by Sweeney and McInville. So anyway, it's going to be a tremendous thing. It's going to help anyone that's trying to get to East Memphis, namely Collierville. There's no quick way to get to Collierville from Southaven, but now there is. It should shave off about 10 to 12 minutes at least off that drive, plus make it a much more pleasant ride. So it'll be a big deal, but that should be open in October. So that's the positive news tonight. That's all I have this evening. Next on the agenda is our citizens agenda. We have Ms. Caroline Barnett with our Southaven Public Library that's registered to speak. Please come forward.
I'm going to introduce Meredith.
Yeah.
Her Dan.
I'm the director of First Regional Library, and my name is Meredith Wickham. I've been here about 6 months now, and I obviously mistimed my budget request, but I'll know for next year. May I go ahead and give you our packet, though, this time?
Certainly, Mr. Chris Wilson.
Great. I thought that was going to be 5 and 5. I have one for you as well.
Thank you, Ed.
So I typically do most of my budget requests in July and August, and this was when we had scheduled yours, but I will realize for next year that y'all are ahead of the game, because obviously you have a budget ready to go. But at least you'll kind of know where my thinking is going as far as asking for what the library needs in the future. And I appreciate you hearing from me now. We're first of all, we want to say thank you, because your support has made it possible to have one of the most used, busiest libraries in the state, and have it be really operating at a level that is second to none. The innovative programming that goes on there, the services that are offered to so many people. It's in the top 10 busiest in the state, as well as, it's a beautiful library. I'm sure if you've been in lately, you've seen, it really is a showplace. And we're just so thrilled for what the City of Southaven has committed to and has done over the years for the library and for its community. When you look at a library in a community, it is really like the community throwing its doors wide and saying, here's the door to opportunity. It's a huge economic driver. The research has shown that return on investment for economic opportunity in the community is at least $5 for every dollar invested. And the Southaven Library bears that up. I hear about repeatedly, ever since I've come, people getting jobs there, people who've graduated with advanced degrees coming back to say thank you to the librarians. Everything that's happening to encourage kids to get ready for school. It's just a huge economic opportunity, as well as just a life thriving opportunity for your people. And so it means so much to us that you continue to support us. I've included a few graphs in this packet to kind of show you what I'm looking at as far as your history of contribution and where you stand as far as our other cities in the system. But I'll be honest with you, it was almost impossible to draw up this packet for Southaven, because you are just a very different kind of city in our system. You're very large, you have different economic needs, you have a huge population spread over a larger area. So it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges when you look at those graphs. So to keep that in mind, because it really is quite difficult to find another city in our service area that is really comparable to Southaven. So I did my best just to kind of show you where other cities are in our service area, in our region, but it's really not possible to give you a true comparison, because you do stand apart, and you can see that in your library. So, but if you have any questions for me, I brought Southaven's budget with me today. I'm happy to answer questions about how we spent your money last year, anything like that. I'm happy to go over with you now.
Are there any questions?
We get numerous compliments on the library, by the way.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. It really is, I mean, I'm really just excited to be working with y'all, to be honest. It's a wonderful library.
Good job.
And all kudos to Caroline, who's in the audience, who's the manager there.
And on your graph with the, how the increased revenue is allocated, you're proposing, it looks
Yes.
like the majority of that is for salaries and benefits?
Yes, the majority of it actually goes to our PERS allocation. What we were notified, we have to give more to PERS this year, and there's going to be an upcoming increase as well, I believe. And so we had to cover that. Additionally, our board voted to try and increase across the board a 2% salary increase for cost of living for our staff this year. So that calculates your portion of that.
Are there any other potential funding opportunities? I know the City of Southaven obviously is a significant part of your income in your
It is.
budget.
It is.
Are there typically, you mentioned that we're different than many other cities, it's hard to find a comparable. What do other, and I
Right.
should know this, but I don't, what do other libraries, throughout the country, how do they typically acquire their operational funding?
So it varies state by state. I will say one thing that I'm actually in talks with DeSoto County about their legislative ask right now, because one thing that I feel like we're really hamstrung about in Mississippi is that we're not allowed to sell anything. We just got an Attorney General's opinion that said that we would be allowed to directly sell $1,000 a week in discarded books, which is the first time they've ever cracked on that. But $1,000 a week, frankly, across 14 libraries is not going to make a huge dent for us. I mean, it's a nice idea and everything, but when you add up the staff time and all that, it's not going to help us a lot. But if we were able to, say, have cafes, fundraise merchandise, like you see New York Public Library selling cool bags and, things like that, that people who had the funds, who were using the library, who were excited about the library, wanted to, have a t-shirt with us on it. If we were able to fundraise more along those lines, I think it would be a great benefit to the libraries in Mississippi. I have to be honest and say I'm maybe not very popular sometimes among librarians when I say that, but I do think we need to have more public-private partnership going forward. I think that's just the way of the future. We're going to need to be more nimble. We can't have 100% of everything be donated by our counties and cities. I think it would be much better if we, combine that with some efforts of our own. And if you wanted to work with me on a legislative ask, a letter, we would definitely be interested in that.
I'll certainly write any letter.
Okay. I can see it being a really nice opportunity for us to, expand our services, bring them into the 21st century at all our locations, not just, our big show places, and also, make sure that we were supporting y'all and not a drain, that we were actually, fully contributing.
And the library is beautiful. Y'all do an incredible job. I mean,
Thank you.
I actually did a tour last year. Christy and I did a tour, and just really impressive. What you do.
Thank you.
We're proud to do that, but it is tough. As you know, you've looked at our budget. $330,000 or $341,000 is a significant. To a city the size of Southaven, it's a significant give. And obviously the building, we own the building too, providing that, we're happy to do that.
Yes.
But the city is, city's all in. Cities contribute a lot of money.
I agree.
It'd be nice if there were some other avenues to acquire funding that would kind of ease the burden, on the city too, so we can keep.
We would love that. Right now it's just local funding plus state funding. So the local funding is whatever the city allocates, whatever the county allocates. And then the state funding comes to us via what's called the Personnel Incentive Grant Plan. And we have to be accredited for that. And then that basically comes to libraries that are accredited and that have the things in place that you need to have in place. And it's a formula based upon population as well as how many counties are in your system. So that, I will be honest, that took some serious hits over the last few years. I'm sure y'all also took some hits when the governor and the state legislature were doing some cuts. For a while there, at my previous library system, it was like a cut every 72 days. That's made it more difficult, I would say, over the long run. But we want to make sure that we're making sustainable moves, even as we think about where our funding comes from. I would love to talk with you about some options.
Appreciate that. And has there been any discussion with our local state delegation on possibly some legislation from a state standpoint that would?
I have not had that conversation. I'm legislative chair for the Mississippi Library Association, and last year, I'll be honest, we did a huge legislative push where we were at the Capitol every week. Some librarians were there every week to try and make sure we didn't get another cut and that we covered our increases in insurance. As you just talked about, the volatility has affected us as well, for our employees. And so we were able to do that, and we're actually kind of looking at our direction for this next year, and it might be that we need to ask that additionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any advice you have for me too, I would be thrilled to receive.
Well, I definitely, to answer your question, anything I can do as far as helping the library look for other potential funding, if there needs to be a letter from me or anything like that, I'll be glad to help. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor, I know we've already had some people come to us, they're gonna need like carpet replaced and stuff like that this year, so we're already gonna have some additional costs, probably just bringing the building up this year, I think, too. It's already been coming up on the horizon, so that's something to also think about.
Okay, no one's brought that to my attention. Is that, where is?
So I know that our branch manager was talking about a request to repaint and put in new carpet with me, but to be honest, I haven't been involved in that. I've been involved at another budgetary level entirely, so I don't know. I know that if it's
at the last meeting, I had just mentioned to Alderman Colley and Alderman Hoops that we have been in the building 10 years now. It was 10 years in March 2008 is when we opened, and our carpet is just very worn and stained. We're starting to get some pull up, so I was just curious, if that might be something that we could look at. And again, with having been in the building 10 years, particularly in the meeting rooms and in the children's area, story time area, it's showing a lot of wear, and so we just wanted to look at whether we might be able to do something about that in the coming year or within. I'd love to do it for our anniversary year, but that is just something that we kind of need to look at, is just some of the upkeep of the building on the inside, a little bit on the outside.
Was that in the budget?
No, so that can't be in our budget. Mississippi law is really weird. Sometime we have to have a chat about Mississippi library law. It's just really weird. When I moved here, I couldn't even believe it. So the library can't own its own buildings. None of us can, and believe me, it causes a lot of frustration among the directors. So we can't own our own buildings. They have to be owned by either the city or the county, and Southaven's is owned by the city. And then the Attorney General's latest opinion and the law say that we cannot make any capital improvements. So it literally, if I see this is broken and I have the money for it, I can't allocate it. I have to call the city and say, this is broken, please repair it. It is a little bit of a complicated system. Yes, your face is telling me exactly. Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes, is like, really, but we are a little bit hamstrung that way, and they see it as whoever owns the building owns the capital, so they won't let us make repairs. So if it would be new carpet and new paint, it would be y'all putting it in.
Okay. Yeah, we just need to bring that to the attention of our facilities director, Bradley Wallace.
Sure.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or question?
Yeah, and at least get some sort of estimate on what that would be, and so we can,
Sure.
so much address it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, we appreciate it.
Thank you, I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda this evening is our personnel docket.
Mr. Mayor, move that we approve the personnel documents presented on this date.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Payne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is our city attorney's legal update. Mr. Nick Manley again.
One quick item that was handed to me this morning, it's just a professional service agreement with Deborah Birch for the city's park program to help teach yoga. Authorize West Brown to sign a contract with Ms. Birch.
So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, next on the agenda is our claims docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the claims docket in the amount of $714,831.66, including domain checks.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Payne, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman who?
Yes.
Alderman Payne.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next on the agenda is to determine the need for executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Kelly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The need this evening is claims regarding our public works and police departments and economic development, potentially bring a new business that will locate to the city. So is there a motion to declare executive session? Got a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Brooks. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The mayor and board will now enter executive session.